Emmanuel was a poor man living under the harsh eyes of his wife's family, bullied and overlooked in a crowded house. But behind the worn clothes and quiet smile hid a secret: billions of dollars in cryptocurrency. As the insults grew louder, Emmanuel stayed silent, buying gifts for his wife in secret, hiding a fortune while living like a pauper. How long can a billionaire live in the shadows before his truth comes crashing into the light?
Emmanuel sat quietly on the old wooden bench in the corner of the small living room. The walls around him were worn and stained, and the air smelled faintly of yesterday's cooking. The house was crowded. His wife Ada's entire family lived here, her parents, 2 brothers, 3 sisters, and even some cousins. The rooms were small, the spaces tight, and privacy was almost non-existent. Emmanuel was different from the others. He had no steady job. His clothes were old, his shoes patched many times over. Because of this, the family looked down on him. They saw him as a burden, someone who could not provide for Ada or their family. One day, as Emmanuel quietly helped Ada's mother sweep the floor, Ada's older brother barged into the room. He looked Emmanuel up and down with a sneer. "Emmanuel, how long will you sit here doing nothing? Can't you find a real job?" he snapped. Emmanuel smiled softly, not wanting to fight. "I'm trying my best," he said quietly. Ada came to Emmanuel's side and took his hand. "He's doing everything he can," she said softly. Standing between Emmanuel and her brother, the older brother rolled his eyes and walked away, mumbling under his breath. That night, after the house had settled into sleep, Emmanuel pulled out his worn smartphone. He opened an app, a digital wallet for cryptocurrency he had invested in quietly years ago. As he stared at the screen, his eyes grew wide. The small amount of crypto he had bought had grown into billions of naira, billions of dollars. Emmanuel's breath caught. He was now a billionaire, but he didn't smile. He put the phone down and closed his eyes. If he told Ada's family, everything would change, and not for the better. He decided to keep his secret and live as the poor man they had always known. The next morning, Emmanuel woke up before dawn as usual. The sun had barely risen when the sounds of the house stirred awake, Ada's little sisters giggling, footsteps running down the hallway, and the chatter of Ada's parents preparing breakfast. Emmanuel put on his old shirt and quietly stepped into the kitchen. Ada was already there, smiling as she stirred a pot of stew. "Good morning, Emmanuel," she said softly, handing him a cup of tea. "Morning, Ada," he replied, smiling back. But peace never lasted long. As soon as Ada's family gathered for breakfast, the familiar teasing began. Ada's brother, seated at the head of the table, glanced at Emmanuel with a mocking grin. "Emmanuel," he said loudly, "why don't you buy Ada something nice for once? A handbag, maybe? Or a pair of shoes? She deserves better than your old gifts." The family laughed, and Emmanuel's face burned with shame. He looked down at his worn shoes and felt the sting of their words. After breakfast, the family left the house for the market, leaving Emmanuel and Ada alone. Emmanuel pulled out his phone and opened the crypto app. The numbers were still there, billions, unchanging and real. A small smile appeared on his lips. Later that day, Emmanuel used his phone to order a beautiful handbag online. He chose a reliable delivery service and made sure the sender information was hidden. A few days passed. Then, one afternoon, a small package arrived at the house. Ada opened it carefully. Her eyes sparkled when she saw the elegant bag inside. "Who could have sent me this?" she whispered, looking around the room. Emmanuel smiled quietly and said, "Maybe someone who loves you very much." Ada hugged the bag close, feeling a warmth in her heart she hadn't felt in a long time. But Emmanuel said nothing more, keeping his secret safe. The days that followed were filled with the same old struggles for Emmanuel. Living in Ada's family house meant never having a moment of peace. The constant noise, the cramped spaces, and most of all, the endless bullying from Ada's relatives made life hard. One afternoon, as they all gathered for lunch, Emmanuel quietly ate his food while listening to the familiar jabs. Ada's sister, loud and sharp-tongued, said with a smirk, "Emmanuel can't even buy Ada a decent pair of shoes." "What kind of husband is he?" Laughter echoed around the room. Emmanuel felt the words like a sharp knife, but he didn't respond. He looked down at his worn sandals and swallowed the pain. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Emmanuel sat alone with his phone. He opened his crypto wallet app and stared at the staggering number on the screen, billions of dollars. It was a secret treasure no one suspected. His fingers moved swiftly across the screen as he ordered a pair of beautiful shoes for Ada. He chose the best brand she liked and arranged for the package to arrive anonymously. When the delivery arrived a few days later, Ada was surprised once again. She carefully unwrapped the box to find the perfect shoes inside. "Who keeps sending me these gifts?" Ada asked Emmanuel, her voice full of wonder. Emmanuel smiled gently. "Maybe someone who loves you a lot." Ada smiled back, but still didn't guess the truth. Despite the gifts, the bullying continued, growing worse by the day. Emmanuel's heart ached, but he stayed silent. Each gift was his quiet way of showing love and fighting back without words. As the days turned into weeks, the teasing and bullying from Ada's family only grew stronger. Emmanuel felt like an invisible man in his own home. Every insult cut deeper than the last. One afternoon, Emmanuel was sitting quietly in the living room when Ada's brother entered with a loud laugh. "Emmanuel, tell me, why don't you ever bring money home?" "Ada deserves better," he said, shaking his head. The others in the room nodded and laughed. Emmanuel clenched his fists but said nothing. Later that evening, Emmanuel sat with Ada in their small room. She noticed the sadness in his eyes. "Emmanuel, why don't you say anything?" "They hurt you," she said softly. He shook his head. "I want to protect you. If I say something, it might get worse." Ada took his hand gently. "I believe in you. I know you'll find a way." That night, Emmanuel opened his phone again. He stared at the digital numbers that no one else knew about, the billions he had earned quietly in crypto. He wished he could tell Ada, but fear held him back. Instead, he planned another secret gift. The next day, he ordered a new smartphone for Ada. She had been using an old one with a cracked screen for years. When the package arrived, Ada's face lit up with joy. "This is amazing." "Who would do this for me?" Emmanuel smiled. "Maybe someone who wants to see you happy." Ada hugged him tightly, still unaware that Emmanuel was the secret giver. The pressure in the house was growing. Emmanuel's silence, his quiet endurance, seemed to fuel the family's cruelty. One evening, while the family gathered around the small television, Ada's mother suddenly spoke, her voice cold. "Emmanuel, why don't you help out more? Your wife works hard, but you just sit there." Ada's father nodded in agreement. "Yes, a man should provide. You're living in our house, but you don't contribute." Emmanuel felt his heart tighten. He looked at Ada, whose eyes were downcast but full of silent support. That night, Emmanuel sat alone, scrolling through his crypto wallet. The numbers on the screen were like a silent promise, a secret power waiting to be used. Yet, every day he kept the secret. He didn't want to bring trouble or greed into their lives. The next day, Ada mentioned a small wish. "I've always wanted a laptop to study better online," she said quietly. Emmanuel's heart lifted. He ordered a sleek laptop and arranged for it to be delivered anonymously. When the package arrived, Ada gasped with delight. "How does this keep happening?" she wondered aloud. Emmanuel simply smiled, feeling both joy and sadness. Despite his growing fortune, Emmanuel's world remained the same, a poor man living in a crowded house, bearing the weight of silence and love.
You'll love the way it's just like helium.
Among all the noise and pain, there was one person who never judged Emmanuel, Zainab. They had been friends since childhood, and even when times were tough, she stayed by his side. One evening, Emmanuel and Zainab video called each other. The glow of their phone screens lit their faces in the dark. "Emmanuel," Zainab said warmly, "I know things are hard now, but you have something special. Don't give up. I believe in you." Emmanuel smiled sadly. "Thank you, Zainab. You're the only one who has always believed in me, even when no one else did." They talked for hours about dreams, struggles, and hopes for the future. Zainab said, "One day you'll show the world what you're really worth." "I'm here for you, no matter what," Emmanuel nodded. "You mean a lot to me, Zainab. But for now, let's just be friends." "That's enough," she smiled softly. Friends, yes. Always. Their friendship was a bright spot in Emmanuel's difficult life, a source of strength when the world around him felt heavy. Days turned into weeks. And Emmanuel's secret weighed heavier on his heart, living in the same house as Ada's family was. Like walking on a tight rope, one wrong step, and everything could collapse every morning. Emmanuel woke to harsh words. One day, Ada's eldest brother shouted across the room, "Emmanuel, why do you always hide when it's time to pay bills or buy groceries? You're a husband, not a guest." The room fell silent for a moment. Emmanuel's jaw tightened. But he held his calm. Ada stepped forward, her voice firm yet gentle. "Please." "Stop. Emmanuel works hard in ways you don't see." Her brother scoffed. "Hard work. He can't even buy her a simple gift." "What kind of husband is that?" Emmanuel swallowed the lump in his throat. He looked at Ada's eyes, full of worry and love. That night, Emmanuel sat alone, scrolling through his crypto wallet. The fortune he had quietly earned was a hidden world away from the insults and poverty around him. He wanted to use that money to protect Ada, to silence the insults, but he feared it would only bring more problems. Instead, he planned another secret gift. He ordered a beautiful watch, one he knew Ada admired but had never owned. When the gift arrived, Ada's eyes shone with surprise and happiness. "Who keeps surprising me like this?" she asked Emmanuel softly. He smiled. "Maybe someone who loves you deeply." Yet, inside, Emmanuel struggled. The pressure was building, and keeping the secret was becoming harder every day. The days grew heavier for Emmanuel. The bullying from Ada's family wasn't just words anymore. It had turned into cold stares and silent treatment. The house felt smaller and colder each day. One evening, Emmanuel returned home late from running errands. As he stepped inside, Ada's brother crossed his path and sneered, "Late again. You're useless, Emmanuel. Maybe you should just leave." The words hit Emmanuel hard. For the first time, his patience began to crack. His hands trembled. But he stayed silent, walking past him without a word. That night, Emmanuel sat alone in the dark, staring at his phone. The billions in his crypto wallet stared back at him like a silent promise, a secret power that could change everything. But fear and doubt held him back. What if revealing the truth only made things worse? What if Ada's family grew greedier? What if they treated Ada differently? Despite the torment, Emmanuel continued to buy gifts for Ada secretly. A beautiful bracelet, a new dress, and even tickets to a concert she had dreamed of attending. Each gift was his way of showing love without words. Ada noticed but remained confused. "Why don't you just tell me who sends these?" she asked gently. Emmanuel smiled sadly. "Some things are better left a mystery." Inside, Emmanuel felt torn. The secret was becoming too heavy to carry alone. The bullying worsened, and his heart ached for peace. He knew the breaking point was near. The weight of silence grew unbearable for Emmanuel. The constant bullying at home was like a storm he faced every day, yet he never let it show. But some days the pain was too deep to hide. One evening, after a long, exhausting day, Emmanuel returned home to find the family gathered around the table. Ada's brother shot him a cold look. "So, Emmanuel," he sneered, "still can't buy your wife a proper gift? Or are you just enjoying being the family fool?" The words hit Emmanuel harder than ever before. His hands clenched into fists, but he forced himself to stay calm. Ada stepped beside him, her voice soft but steady. "Please stop this." "Emmanuel does his best," her brother laughed bitterly. "His best? What good is best if it leaves Ada with nothing?" That night, Emmanuel sat in their small room with Ada. He looked into her eyes, feeling the deep love and pain reflected back. "Ada," he began carefully, "there's something I need to tell you." "Something I've kept secret." Ada's eyes widened. "What is it?" Emmanuel took a deep breath. "I've been investing in cryptocurrency for years. What I have is more money than you can imagine. I'm a billionaire." Ada stared in shock, tears forming in her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared," Emmanuel admitted. "Scared of how your family would react." "I didn't want to lose you or make things worse." Ada took his hand tightly. "I love you, Emmanuel. Nothing will change that." But Emmanuel knew things were far from simple. The secret was out, but the real challenge had just begun. The moment Emmanuel revealed his secret, silence filled their small room. Ada's eyes were wide with disbelief and a flood of emotions. She wiped a tear and whispered, "A billionaire, all this time." Emmanuel nodded slowly. "Yes. I didn't want anyone to know because I feared what it might bring." Outside their room, the family's mood shifted quickly when the news spread. Some were shocked, others angry, and many confused. The next morning, Emmanuel faced his in-laws with a mix of fear and determination. Ada's father cleared his throat. "So, you've been hiding this all along? Why didn't you tell us?" Emmanuel met his gaze steadily. "I wanted to protect Ada and this family from greed and conflict." Ada's brother scoffed. Protect or just keep control? The tension in the room was thick. Emmanuel felt the weight of years of mistreatment and misunderstanding, despite the anger. Ada stood by Emmanuel. "We love each other, and that's what matters." Slowly, some family members began to respect Emmanuel more, but others remained bitter. Meanwhile, Emmanuel and Ada talked late into the night. Emmanuel confessed, "I never wanted to hurt you, but this secret has been a heavy burden." Ada held his hand. "We will face this together." However, the strain of years of pain and the complicated feelings with Zainab weighed on Emmanuel. He knew tough choices were coming. The days after Emmanuel's secret was revealed were tense and confusing. Ada's family was divided. Some welcomed the truth with surprise and respect, while others held onto their anger and pride. Emmanuel tried to rebuild the broken trust, but the wounds ran deep. One afternoon, as Emmanuel sat quietly in his small room, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Zainab. "I'm here if you need to talk." Emmanuel stared at the message, feeling a rush of warmth. Zainab had always believed in him, even when no one else did. He called her, and their conversation flowed easily, full of honesty and understanding. Emmanuel, Zainab said gently, "You don't have to carry this burden alone," he sighed. But things with Ada's family are complicated. The pain is still there. Zainab's voice was soft. "I care about you, Emmanuel, no matter what happens." Emmanuel felt a pull toward Zainab, a comfort and kindness he desperately needed. Yet, he told her, "We should just be friends." "That's all I can offer," she smiled through the phone. "Friends, always." Despite the friendship, Emmanuel's heart was torn. He loved Ada, but the years of pain and the support from Zainab created a complicated web of emotions. He knew he had to make a choice. A decision that would change all their lives. Zainab was more than a friend to Emmanuel, she was a steady presence in a life filled with chaos. Even after Emmanuel's secret was out, she stayed close, offering support without expectation. One rainy afternoon, Emmanuel met Zainab at a quiet cafe. The rain tapped softly on the windows as they talked. "I know things have been hard," Zainab said, stirring her tea, "but I believe in you, Emmanuel, not because of money, but because of who you are." Emmanuel looked down, feeling the weight of his choices. "I care for you, Zainab, but I can't be more than friends. Ada is still in my heart." Zainab smiled gently. "I understand. Friendship is enough for me." They talked for hours about dreams, fears, and the future. Zainab's calm presence gave Emmanuel strength. Later that week, Emmanuel faced another challenge. Ada's family still harbored resentment, and the house was far from peaceful. Yet, Zainab's words stayed with him, a reminder that not all relationships were complicated. Some were simply about trust and care. As Emmanuel walked home, he thought about the future. He wanted to build a life of honesty, love, and respect with Ada, if she would have him. Life was slowly changing for Emmanuel, but the past still shadowed his present. The years of mistreatment from Ada's family had left deep scars, and healing was not easy. One afternoon, Emmanuel sat quietly with Ada. She looked at him with gentle eyes. "Emmanuel," she said softly, "I've always believed in you, even when everyone else didn't. I want us to move forward, together." Emmanuel smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "I want that too. But there's something else I need to do." Ada tilted her head, curious. "I need to make peace with my past, with the people who hurt me, and with myself. Only then can we truly build a future." Ada reached out and took his hand. "I'll be with you every step of the way." Over the next weeks, Emmanuel began to visit those who had bullied him. Some were angry, some ashamed, but many were surprised by his kindness and forgiveness. Slowly, walls began to fall. At home, Emmanuel and Ada started planning a proper wedding, a fresh start where love and respect would guide their lives. Despite the challenges, Emmanuel felt hope. He was no longer just a poor man hiding a secret. He was a man ready to embrace his future. The days leading up to the wedding were filled with excitement and nervous energy. Emmanuel and Ada worked side by side, planning every detail of their new life together. Gone were the days of hiding and silence. Emmanuel was no longer the poor man living under the shadow of Ada's family's judgment. He was a man of strength, love, and quiet power. One afternoon, Emmanuel visited Zainab to share the good news. They sat in a cozy cafe, surrounded by the hum of conversations and the scent of fresh coffee. "I'm getting married to Ada," Emmanuel said, smiling softly. Zainab's eyes shone with happiness for him. "You deserve happiness, Emmanuel." "I'm glad you found your way," Emmanuel nodded. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your friendship kept me strong." The wedding day arrived, bright and warm. Family, friends, and neighbors gathered to celebrate. Ada looked radiant in her white dress, and Emmanuel felt a joy he had never known. As they exchanged vows, Emmanuel whispered to Ada, "Thank you for believing in me." Ada smiled through tears. "And thank you for never giving up." That day marked not just a wedding, but a new beginning, a life built on love, trust, and hope. The morning sun streamed through the windows as Emmanuel and Ada woke up in their new home. It was a small, simple house, but it was theirs, a place filled with hope, love, and new dreams. The years of struggle and silence felt like a distant memory now. Emmanuel had finally stepped into the life he had always wanted, not just because of money, but because of love and respect. That day, Emmanuel sat with Ada on the porch, holding her hand gently. "Do you remember the first day we met?" Emmanuel asked with a smile. Ada laughed softly. "Yes, I thought you were just a poor man struggling to survive." Emmanuel chuckled. "I was. But underneath it all, I had a secret that scared me." Ada looked into his eyes. "And now I have nothing to hide. I'm proud of who I am, and proud to be with you." They sat quietly, watching the world around them awaken. Emmanuel knew challenges would come. But with Ada by his side, he was ready for anything. Their story was not just about wealth or hardship, it was about love that stayed strong through every test. As the sun set, Emmanuel whispered, "Forever and always, Ada." Ada smiled through tears. Forever and always, Emmanuel. And so their journey continued, together, unbreakable. And full of hope, the end.
Subscribe for more content.